Well, another development that we're following today, and this is a big one, Wikileaks has struck again, claiming that their latest document released today reveals important CIA hacking secrets. NBC News has not verified the authenticity of these documents, and a CIA spokesman is declining to comment. Retired four-star general and former CIA director Michael Hayden, also former head of the NSA, is a principal of the Chertoff Group now, and the author of Playing to the Edge, American Intelligence in the Age of Terror, now out in paperback. Well, General Hayden, it's great to see you. We could not have a more perfect guest today to talk about all of this. We are not going to go into the details of what WikiLeaks is revealing out of caution and because we have not authenticated them, but just in general, let me ask you, how damaging is it? Well, if they appear to be what they are, right. What about this continual leakage from WikiLeaks, this document dump? And this could be, depending on what assessment we make, could be one of the most dangerous and damaging of them all.
No, you're right, but Andrea, I just know what I'm reading, and reading very quickly, and frankly not a whole lot of detail, and I do reflect the agency's comment that they aren't going to talk about this, and this has not been confirmed. But if it is what it pretends to be, it looks like a very extensive file of the tactics, techniques, procedures, targets, and political rules under which the Central Intelligence Agency conducts its computer network exploitation and other activities. So if it is that, it would be very, very damaging. And Andrea, I just got to offer an editorial comment here. This is about foreign intelligence collection. This doesn't invoke the privacy rights of Americans. And isn't it surprising that WikiLeaks, this transparency engine, seems to be focused on transparency only about the United States of America and its friends, not totalitarian regimes around the world?
It certainly would indicate something about their motives, indeed. Now let's move on to the president's tweet from Saturday, because it's still not substantiated in any regard. I wanted to share with you and all of our viewers and listeners what Lindsey Graham just was asked about or asked Rod Rosenstein about at the Judiciary Committee hearing on the nominee to be acting Deputy Attorney General, because he was asking about what it would take to wiretap or eavesdrop against the president-elect or the nominee or Trump Tower. How could President Obama do this as alleged in a tweet by the President of the United States? This is how it went.
You could have gotten a warrant through the normal criminal process. That would have been lawful if a judge granted it. Number two, you could have a FISA court, which is a little bit different, but it's still the court overseeing someone's request, right?
Yes, that's correct.
The third would be if the President Obama on his own decided to wiretap Trump Tower or the campaign. Do you know of any basis that he would have the ability to do that without a FISA warrant or without a warrant from a federal judge in a criminal investigation?
No, I do not.
Okay, as a matter of fact, he could not. No president can just unilaterally say, go wiretap that American citizen.
So the man nominated to be Deputy Attorney General says that that's just not possible. Yeah. How do we understand, how do you explain, if you can, what the President of the United States was talking about?
Well, let me first join consensus here, Andrea. That's just not possible. All right? And Senator Graham laid it out perfectly. In order to get a FISA warrant, it's either for foreign intelligence purposes or counterintelligence and law enforcement purposes. The president can't do it. In each case, a judge has to believe there's probable cause that we're talking about a crime or an agent of a foreign power. This lane over here, foreign intelligence, was run by Jim Clapper. This lane over here, law enforcement and counterintelligence, was run by Jim Comey. And in the last 36 hours, Andrea, both Jims have said, not me. And so I just don't think there's any there when it comes to this claim that the president has put out.
the President of the United States, President Obama, would have been breaking the law if he did it without going through either of those two paths. And he couldn't do it anyway. It would have to be someone from the FBI, someone from intelligence, someone from the Justice Department. It wouldn't be up to the President.
Well, let's just assume a scenario here from some, late-night thriller that the President decides to break the law. I mean, he's not going to put the alligator clips on the wires himself. He's going to have to use an agency of the United States government. Now, this President is complaining about the bureaucracy being unresponsive to his guidance. Andrea, I can only imagine the response when the bureaucracy is told in this so-called thriller I'm creating here to go do this in clear violation of the FISA statutes. The American government's agents in FBI, NSA, CIA just wouldn't do that.
From your long experience, what is the damage to the U.S. abroad with our allies to have the President making these unsubstantiated allegations, this one in particular perhaps the most egregious, but the others as well, Guantanamo today, to our foreign partners, to our intelligence partners who need to trust us and on whom we rely for sharing intelligence, their intelligence?
Yeah, let me just bring Mr. Putin on stage here just for a moment,
Please.
Andrea. His narrative is that we aren't what we pretend to be. We aren't this stable, mature, transparent, responsible democracy. And I fear an awful lot of tweets from the President of the United States reinforce the narrative that Mr. Putin would like the rest of the world to believe about us.
I wanted to ask you about North Korea. 4 more missile launches. They haven't, as far as we know, the Joint Chiefs are saying that this latest one did not include, as they claim, an ICBM, a long-range missile that could reach the continental United States. But they are clearly advancing. Yeah. And while they haven't figured out how to put a nuclear warhead on top of these missiles, that could be down the road. What do we do?
If there was an easy what do we do, we would have done it. This is a genuinely wicked problem. I don't envy the Trump administration this issue because, frankly, Andrew, because of the limited successes of all of his predecessors, we're getting to crunch time. Probably within his first administration, the North Koreans will have a rudimentary, indigenously produced ICBM with a rudimentary, indigenously produced nuclear warhead, probably capable of reaching the American Pacific Northwest. It won't be a high-confidence weapon. They're going to have lots of problems with launch, separation, fusing, hardening, miniaturization, and so on. But then again, Andrew, if you're living in Seattle or Vancouver, what kind of odds you're comfortable with? This is really coming to a very, very difficult choice.
And there's reporting from David Sanger and his colleagues, William Broad and others at the New York Times, that among the options being considered by this new administration are helping South Korea become nuclear armed. It's something that the President talked about during the campaign. Is that a good idea, to renuclearize the peninsula?
It's an idea. I don't know if it's a good idea, but then again, Andrew, we're running out of good ideas. My sense is a threat, even a suggestion that we would return our weapons to South Korea, that we would allow the South Koreans to develop their own weaponry. That's a carom shot. That's not meant to influence the North Koreans because it probably have a negative effect on them. They'd want their weapons even more. What that's designed to do is to point out to the Chinese, if you don't put pressure on these guys, we're going to go do what we got to go do, and I don't think you're going to like it. And maybe then we get the Chinese to exert the kind of pressure that to date they've just refused to exert.
And today, China threatened consequences because of our beginning to deploy the anti-missile defenses in South Korea, the so-called THAAD program. How much do we need to worry about that?
Look, I'm fully in the lane of, with regard to the THAAD, this is we got to go do what we got to go do. Sorry, China, not meant for you. But as long as these crazy people up here keep doing this, we're going to take necessary measures. I'd put THAAD in Japan as well. And that certainly, Andrea, would get the Chinese attention.
And finally, do we have a military option against North Korea, some sort of preemptive strike or any kind of other military option?
You referenced David's really wonderful article, David Sanger, about what defense is doing. And they're talking about doing stuff left of launch. do something to the North Koreans before the thing's on its way to North America. One left of launch activity is actually a preemptive strike. But Andrea, like I said, no good option.